Welcome, everybody. Episode 69 of Christian Geeks Rockcast. And I'm not going to say anything about the episode number because
we're not
one before 70.
We're not middle schoolers. We're not middle school boys.
Correct. And I don't even have any middle schoolers in my house anymore. So this is a good day.
Well, freshman's close enough. He would also make a joke. He would also make a joke.
Yeah,
but we will not
keep those jokes out of the house.
We will not.
No.
These haven't been actually
saying
right.
it. Anyway, I digress. So we're back to do an album, and I feel like it's been like a long time since we actually got together to review an album. We released a podcast sometime back on Sixpence, but we recorded that like way earlier than we released it. So it's been a minute.
It's been a minute. That's all right. We had a great conversation with Monty. And,
oh my gosh, yes, that was great.
And yeah, and it's the summer, and no one's paying us for this yet. So,
which, by the way, hit us up. GeeksRockcast@gmail.com if you got money.
We are open. Shingles medication.
College tuition funds. It doesn't matter.
College tuition. Yes.
We'll accept any and all payments of all kinds.
Lawn care products.
Yeah, when we were talking with Monty last episode about paying him a percentage of everything we've earned on it, I was thinking, actually, I think he owes us money then.
I was going to make that joke, but I let it go. You talked about a penny, and I was like, well, if you're going to get a percentage, then you got to pay the negative too. Isn't that how it works?
Probably. I don't know.
You don't know?
I don't know. I've never earned money from things like this, so I don't know. I don't know how this works. But anyway, so today we're going to be talking in a little bit about Tourniquet's debut album, Stop the Bleeding. And this is one of those where I feel like it's a long time coming. We're like 69 episodes in, and we're just now getting to Tourniquet.
Right. We've talked about it, especially when Ted passed. We did talk about doing a Tourniquet album, and then I don't remember what happened. We just kind of moved on. Yeah. Sorry to Tourniquet. We do love the Tourniquet.
We love some Tourniquets.
So we are, and I was watching the Immortal Fest YouTube videos and was very pleased with them. Mostly. And I thought they were really cool, and I really appreciated them, except for whoever was standing in the back next to the cameras talking. I wanted to message someone and go, next time you video, tell people who are talking in the back row to move. And, it is what it is. But it was still amazing, and the Tourniquet one was really so fun. To see Guy up there and to hear some of those old songs, and they kicked butt, man. Musically they were awesome, and I watched some of the other ones. So I was watching it, and after watching it and just really getting excited about it, I messaged Steve. I texted him and I was like, "We haven't done Tourniquet," and he was like, "Yeah, that seems like we should."
It's probably time.
So, in honor of Immortal Fest, which I don't think I'm going to get to go to the one in September either, even though that's the one I really want to go to. Then I'm like, well, hey, let's do it. Let's get one done.
We'll do our own Immortal Fest right here.
I wish we could. Man, I wish I had that kind of cash. I wish I had that sort of pull or cash or something. Could pull that together. That would be so fun. The Christian Geeks Rockcast Fest. Rock Fest.
Geek Fest.
Geek Rock Fest.
I don't know. Yeah, it's one of those things where it's one of the main reasons I'm not going, added to the busyness of fall, just because I've got sons now in marching bands in 2 states I have to look after. So it's becoming to be a bit of a challenge to get through the fall. But not only with that, it's just like the money part of that is probably one of the biggest barriers. And so the idea of hosting a festival, if I can't afford to go to one, right, somebody else is hosting. So anyway, and it's like the idea is amazing, but it's like I've heard just horror stories of promotion, concert promoters and stuff. So it's like that kind of scares me away a little bit too. But yes, maybe one day.
That is. So I am still open if anyone's listening to this, and there are a few individuals in particular who we interact with on social media and other things. I'm still open, and I did do some looking. I am open to the renting of an Airbnb, but I did some looking, and there's nothing in that city. Like the closest thing is 20 minutes away. And everything else is like 30 minutes away. Like, so, but I'm open to renting an Airbnb and sharing it with a few gentlemen. And cause I think it would be cool. It's my idea, obviously. I like it, but I still like the idea of having a place like an Airbnb with a living room where we can invite the bands back to and interview them on the podcast. I think that would be amazing. I think that would be an amazing thing to do. So bucket list, maybe, but anyway, I'm still considering it. So I'm open if anyone wants to message me on Facebook and start the conversation about how we could make this work. I think I could drive up on, when does it start? Friday? I think I could drive up on Friday and then drive back on Monday. I think I could make it work. And I think I can make it work. It would be especially cool if we had like a Tesla that we could take. If we had a Tesla.
Yeah. I don't know where you'd find one of those. Okay.
Anyway, I'm just brainstorming live on air.
As you should. I'm not one to spread rumors and gossip, but I'm going to. No, I read somewhere on Facebook, and again, this is all speculation, rumor, nothing official. But I was hearing that they possibly might move Immortal Fest to Nashville next year.
Right.
Which, no offense to Versailles, Ohio, but if it's in Nashville, there's a much greater chance of me being able to get there just because of drive time. I know people there. And
we both know people there that would be amazing to stay with. So,
yeah. So and I think that it's a little more centrally located, like in the rumor thread that I saw, there were a lot of people saying like that actually is doable for me. Like other people saying,
well, and a lot of the bands live around there. I mean, a lot of the guys who are in some of those bands live there. And anyway, that would be great. Anyway, so
if it happens,
it happens. But so yes, we're doing Tourniquet. We're going to do their first album, Stop the Bleeding, and
which is the purpose of a tourniquet. So I get it. See,
which is the purpose. They weren't quite as medical on this album, and we'll get to some of that. However, it was an amazing album, and it was not life-changing for me, but it was definitely one of those albums that when it came out and we had it, like my metalhead fans, and fellow friends who were metalhead fans, and I wore that tape out. We wore that cassette out. And so we'll get into that, but that's what we're doing today.
Oh yeah.
We got some news. We haven't done anything with news in like 8 months. So I can only imagine how much news we have.
Well, it's not as much as it could be. I will say that.
Okay.
But all right. there is news. So,
all right, let's do it. Let's go.
All right. So the biggest news, and this is kind of recent news. Well, it's funny because a news item, I kind of build up my news or I try to between episodes, like between recording of episodes, like something new comes out, I'll add it to a note and I'll just keep the note growing. So the first item on my list was the Russ Taff interview that was on the Soft White Underbelly YouTube page, which they have millions of followers. And if you haven't seen that interview, it's kind of a hard watch, especially if you are a big Russ Taff fan and you remember him from the Imperials and Metals and that kind of stuff, because it's pretty raw, and he really holds nothing back, either in the nature of what he says, and also his language is a little coarse, a little not safe for church, which is
most churches.
What's that?
Most churches.
Yeah, most churches.
Depends on the church, I guess.
Correct. Yeah. So but it shows you kind of the redemptive arc that he's been through in his life, and it takes the I Still Believe. If you've seen that. That I can't remember if it's a documentary or a movie. I watched it, but it's been a while. I think it's a documentary. It takes that and it kind of takes all the gloss off of it and just gets to the raw story. Mm-hmm. But it's really good. It's really good. So if you haven't seen that, go check that out. But that was my first item on this list. But then I've added the Kickstarter that's come out that Steve Taylor has put out for a new album by Russ Taff that is apparently it's already recorded. Apparently.
Oh wow! I didn't see that it was already recorded. I saw that. Just within the last couple of days, I've saw news about the Kickstarter. Yeah,
so it's interesting. So Steve Taylor is executive producer, and I think John Mark Painter is the producer of it. But they're doing it like the Johnny Cash, Rick Rubin albums, the American songs or whatever. I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's where they, like, he did Hurt by Nine Inch Nails.
Oh yeah. That was cool. That was super
cool. So they're doing cover songs, like Russ Taff doing cover songs. There's like U2 song, Depeche Mode, some other stuff, kind of been more of a, slow Americana style.
Katy Perry, Backstreet Boys.
You never know. Hey, a good pop song is a good pop song. But the
Wrecking Ball, is it Wrecking Ball going to be one?
I'm pretty sure not. Yeah, but so that album is already recorded, and they're raising $100,000. But the $100,000 is because apparently someone already paid for the recording of it. And so the $100,000 that they're trying to raise is for promotion, because they want to. He's gotten his like Squint Records team back together, I think, to help push this album.
Taylor has,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So he's gotten that, like a lot of his old record buddies back together to help try to push this in the same way that they did Sixpence None the Richer back in the day.
Can I share just one thing? It's going to make me probably look horrible, but I'm old. I don't care. But it was the last couple of days, whenever you or somebody on my feed posted big news, and then there was a picture of Russ Taff, and my immediate thought was, oh no, he passed away. That was my immediate thought. And then I felt horrible because it was like a new album coming out. I was like, oh, good. Thank God.
To me, that's not terrible, because that kind of is sort of the first place your mind goes. Although hopefully I wouldn't post it with big news.
It was that immediate thought. Like, it was like that immediate thought in my brain that you don't control those things. But because we've had so many of our generation of the music artists who have passed, and different actors and different people. Anyway, it made me feel horrible and then I was very glad that was not the case, that it was really that he was coming out with a new album. And I thought, well, that was probably going to be really cool.
Yeah. No, it's kind of like on Twitter when you see a name trending and everybody just assumes it's trending because that person died. So it's kind of that sort of thing and plus the picture that they have of him is kind of a very solemn black and white photo, so I get it. Yeah. You're forgiven.
Thanks.
Okay. Next item. And this is a guy reached out to me, from the band Harpazo, which I wasn't familiar with them. I never really even heard of them before, but it's Harpazo. But they just put out a new album, and I can't remember. I think it's called The Crucible. Is that it? But anyway, I just wanted to give a shout out to those guys because it sounds really great. It's like prog metal, and they've got of note for our listening audience. They have some guest vocalists on it, Les Carlson, Ray Parra, and Michael Drive from Barren Cross. So it's those guys are contributing to it. So anyway, something for you guys to check out some new music.
Where can we check this out?
It's everywhere. I listened to it today on Apple Music.
Okay,
so
all right. I didn't know if it was like YouTube or Apple or Spotify. Or all?
Probably any of those places.
Okay. All right.
But so Harpazo, check them out. Okay, so Galactic Cowboys, we talked to Monty Colvin last episode.
They made it. They did it.
They made it. $70,000. They hit 70,000. They're keeping on going. I think they said if they hit 80,000, they're going to do a video.
Yeah, they did a stretch goal for 80.
So yeah, getting a new album. I'm excited about that.
Yeah, me too.
But no Alan Doss.
Yeah, no Alan Doss. I actually thought about asking him that when we were interviewing him, but I didn't want. I was like, I don't know if I want to bring up anything touchy. It doesn't seem like it is. However, I hadn't heard that he was, because they kept talking about 3 of the members were talking, and Alan Doss. I think he's underrated, to be honest with you. I really think he's an underrated drummer and also an underrated background singer. I think he's an underrated part of that band. Anyway.
I completely agree. Yeah, they, but they know a lot of drummers. Like Monty was just posting the other day with, drummer, what's the drummer's name? The guy from, Megadeth. They're friends with him.
Oh, my gosh. That would be amazing. John Knox. I think they should get John Knox. That's what I think.
I love John Knox. He's one of my favorite drummers ever. I don't think this is the album for him.
I'm kind of messing.
But I mean, even dude from King's X.
Gaskell.
Jerry Gaskell. Yeah. So I don't know. They have a lot of options. As long as they don't do program drums, I'm fine.
Please. They know enough drummers, Joel Walker has already put his name in, so I mean, I think they're good.
Get Joel.
Get Joel.
Dude.
I'm between Brian and Joel and me. I have this like crazy idea in the back of my head about starting a band.
Should do it.
I'm like, guys, let's just record some crazy music. Now they're all going to message me after they hear this, and they'll be like, let's do it.
But anyway, I'm Team Joel. Get Team Joel in there. Okay.
All right.
Speaking of Brian, I actually have this listed. Brian's notes. Okay. I have to give a shout out to Brian because dude takes notes from our podcast.
He does.
Which I never in a million years thought anyone would do that, but he sent us copies of his notes or like some scans or like pictures of it. Dude, hat tip.
Definitely.
Hat tip to Brian.
And he really is. What was he singing the other day? Michael Bolton or something. And I was like, dude, he sounds amazing. He's really good. He's a really good singer. So anyway.
Yeah. So hat tip to Brian. The other thing I have on the list of things to talk about, this came up in my Facebook feed weeks ago. I don't even remember when. There's a guy, Josh Below, I think is his name. Below, but it's BALOGH, I think. Anyway, he put together a list of the 100 greatest Christian albums of the 80s. And I thought about maybe trying to talk. I don't know that we have time to do it today, but anyway, I think I love these lists because it's one person's opinion, and I'm not one. There are a lot of people that have a lot of opinions. I don't know if you ever noticed that on social media. People have a lot of opinions, but like I think his list is great. Do I agree with it all? No, I do not. But I think it's great. I mean, he had "Lead Me On" by Amy Grant at number 1, which I don't
know if I would have put it number 1, but it's up there for sure.
Exactly.
Up there.
I mean, and
sure.
he doesn't. He has "Eye to Eye" by Michael W. Smith ahead of the Big Picture, which is, in my opinion, is not correct. But I love the fact that he has that. It's subjective, so
it's subjective, and it's fun to do, and also impossible to do at the same time, right? I mean, I've made lists like that, and I'm like, how do you even choose? I mean, because some of these albums are so good, it's apples and oranges, and I mean, like I would put "Freedom" up there in the top 5 probably. But how do you pick between that and Amy Grant's "Lead Me On"? I mean, it's just it's apples and oranges to some degree. And anyway, so
yeah, and it's kind of like if you put stuff, and I appreciate somebody putting stuff. We put stuff out there, like these podcasts. We put them out there. We put our opinions out there. Not everybody agrees with them, and sometimes we get something wrong. Just saying, occasionally we get something wrong, but it's like you put yourself out there, like kind of like anybody who posts about Skillet in the Christian metal group. You're putting yourself out there to get ridiculed. It's not fair. I don't necessarily agree with it, but it happens.
It happens. Agreed.
So anyway, so maybe we can cover some of that on another episode. Okay. Yeah. So you want to talk Tourniquet?
Well, I got a couple things before we start. Number
one.
You
got a couple things. Sorry.
That's okay. Number one, I have enjoyed the latest album, Human Code, that was released. They did a pretty decent set they did a good set at Immortal Fest. I would have liked to have seen them live. If you haven't heard Human Code, or maybe even if you have, it's a good album. It reminds me a lot of 6 a.m. I don't know if you know who that is, but I really like the band 6 a.m. And it's Nikki Sixx from Motley Crue put this band together around 15 years ago. And the first album is very artistic and very, very cool, very creative. And then but he put this band together where, he's got a cool vocalist, he's got a cool guitar player, more modern rock sound, and I really like their sound. And so Human Code reminds me of that. They're not like total copies or anything, but it's in that wheelhouse, that vein. And it's good. Would I say it's, a lot of people are just raving about the album. I think it's really, really good. I don't know if I would necessarily rave about it, but definitely check it out, get it. And also I'm thinking we should become more political, Steve, in our podcast here. I'm really thinking that we should get more political. He's rolling his eyes at me. If you're not,
I don't know about all that.
And so I think Christian Geeks Rockcast should put our influence behind a candidate. And so here officially, Les Carlson for president. I think Les Carlson would make an amazing president, and I think we should have T-shirts made and posters, and get people to write him in and get him on the ballot in as many states as we can. I mean, this is the political world we live in. You can just become a candidate in like a day. Just boom. It's social media, and I think between all the metalheads who love Les Carlson, I think we could make this happen. And so he could run as an independent, and boom, done. Anyway, that's all I had.
That's good. I mean, yeah, I generally don't like talking politics, but I think I can get behind a Les Carlson presidential candidacy.
Okay. All right.
We'll make it happen. Yeah, so that's cool. That's cool. But one more thing I want to add to the end of that, sort of bookend that. is those of you who listen to our podcast on, Spotify or Apple Podcasts or whatever, if you really want to see two middle-aged men talking about this with their mouths moving, we've been posting these podcasts on YouTube, if you're not aware. So we have a YouTube channel.
Yes.
Just Geeks Rockcast over on that. You can search us up. We've eclipsed 100 subscribers, so that's exciting.
Yeah.
I can now get more detailed analytics, which is great.
Yep. Yeah.
I haven't looked at them yet, but I got them. But so yeah, we make an effort to try to put those up. They don't always go up as quick as the actual audio podcasts go up, just because there's a little more editing involved for me. So
editing and those are bigger files to render and all that stuff.
I will tell you this now. This is a little admission time. Okay, the podcast that we do, where it's you and me talking, or you and me talking to Monty, and syncing up the audio and video and that sort of thing. Yeah, it takes a little time. Those are kind of big files. The video that I took on my phone of Ronnie Cates, of that interview,
took forever.
That file was so, because I recorded, I'm not even sure if I recorded it in 4K, but I recorded it and it was like over an hour long. I literally had to clean off my computer because my computer would just slow down and just stop and nothing would happen.
It took like 8 days too, or something. I'm kidding. I don't know.
It took a ridiculously long time. It was like I was trying to edit a movie on a, I mean, I've got a nice MacBook, but it's like I was trying to edit a movie on like a Microsoft Surface or something. So anyway, we survived.
All right. I think that's it.
Yeah. Okay. Let's talk about Tourniquet.
Tourniquet. In French.
Okay. Oh, oui. Well, the Olympics are wrapping up, so that makes sense. So
yeah, absolutely.
Pronounce it with the French pronunciation.
Yeah. That hasn't been controversial at all either.
No, not at all. If you haven't ever noticed anything about this podcast, we may skim over controversial topics, but we're not going to dive deep.
All right. 1990.
1990, and it was on Intense Records.
Yes.
Which was at that point a frontline label, a frontline imprint of heavy music. At this time, this was right around the time when Intense was just cranking out.
Yes.
Really good.
Yes, they were.
Metal, and most of you probably listening kind of lived through that era. But for those that aren't aware, it's like this was a period of time, I think, where the music that was coming out, especially from Intense and some other Christian labels, was legit respected on every level of metal music, from, basically all the metal magazines, all the, metal video shows and everything, Deliverance and Tourniquet and Vengeance Rising and all these bands were heavily respected in a lot, because they were legit.
They were legit,
really good.
Yeah. Yeah. And so as I was kind of looking up some stuff, I didn't know. There's one thing I didn't know. So Tourniquet, these guys are in LA and they had a couple bands, like a lot of these guys would. And it really started with Ted Kirkpatrick, the drummer, and Guy Ritter, the singer, and Gary Lenaire. I don't know if I'm saying his name right after the whole Zafiro situation. Who knows? But Gary, the guitar player, they kind of put this band together and had a couple one session musician come in and play some guitar, and for this album. But Ted, I did not know, played the drums for an album and maybe toured with them, I guess, with the band Trouble, which I did not know. And
I had forgotten that. I knew that way back, but I've forgotten that.
And if you don't know who Trouble was, they were more in the general market, non-Christian scene, but they had more Christian-ish type lyrics there, especially in the beginning. And it was, but they were super cool band. They were more called doom metal, but it was, like it was kind of the 80s, but it was also more along the lines of like the early 70s Sabbath and that sort of stuff. So anyway,
like heavy and dark.
And so they were super cool, and they were a cool band, and I wasn't super into them, but anyway, I did not know that about Trouble, and they covered a Trouble song on Pathogenic Ocular Dissonance. The Tempter, I think, they ended up covering a song on that album. So anyway, there was a combination of what I loved about the Tourniquet sound was it was right in line with, all the heavy stuff that was coming out, but it really had its own sound. I mean, they really had their own sound, from thrash, a little speed metal, a little progressive type stuff, and the different vocals. They had the kind of the trade-off vocals, where Gary would do the more shouting stuff and Gary would sing, and Gary's vocals were mostly cool. There was times when I was a little annoyed by the gonzo sound when he would get really high, and we called him the gonzo singer. But the songs are great, the music was great, and we loved it. We loved that album when it came out. And so Ted, and I have to look back on which songs they played on, but Ted and Gary played bass, and they all wrote songs, all three of them. And of course, they built up a full band by Psychosurgery. But anyway, good album, man.
Yeah, it's really solid, and they even had a performance art. Person.
Yeah.
Is it
they did
Devin or Devine? I can't remember, but he was like the performance art part of the band, but I never saw them, so I don't.
Yeah, me neither.
I don't know what level he played in the band, but anyway, it was. That album was really good. It had, we can talk about it, but it had like a breakthrough song that kind of was banned from MTV, which is sort of the story for a lot of Christian bands. They push the envelope so far that MTV turns them away.
Yeah. Which always made me laugh back in the 80s when it would happen, whoever it was, DeCarmo and Key. It was like a couple of bands that supposedly this happened where it crossed the line and they decided, MTV was like, no, we're not going to play that. It was Ark of Suffering, right? Or was the video? Which was really kind of cool about them, because as we've talked about with some of these bands, especially Barren Cross and some of this stuff, like a lot of these Christian bands would have topic songs, it's about drugs or sex or, whatever. Like they'd have these songs, suicide, abortion, and Tourniquet was the only one that I knew of that would do one about animal cruelty. Mm-hmm. And I just thought that was super interesting at the time, even though maybe I didn't agree with everything they believed. But at the same time, I thought it was an incredibly interesting, unique thing to do. And that was the video, Ark of Suffering, that was a video on MTV. And it was on a VHS with a couple other Intense record videos, and we owned that video, and it was cool.
I think I have it too. I may have it. I can't remember.
It had Weapons of Our Warfare, I think.
Was it Hot Metal Summer? Was it one of those?
Something like that. I don't remember.
Yeah, I've been trying to organize all of my stuff in a different room, because I used to. If you've watched videos on our social channels, most of my stuff was in the basement, but I moved it to a different room in my house now. So I've been trying to organize all my CDs, cassettes, albums, videos, et cetera, et cetera. So, and there's things I was like, I knew I used to have this, and they're not there anymore. But anyway, so Tourniquet, Stop the Bleeding, 1990 Intense Records, and groundbreaking in a lot of ways for Christian. In my opinion, it was groundbreaking for Christian music. Some of you will probably disagree with that, just in the sense that it legitimized to me this like thrash metal category. Like I couldn't get into Vengeance Rising just because of, the vocals mainly, which is interesting because Roger Martinez recorded this, and I swear he sings some background on this, but he's not credited anywhere. But
well, Christian music had the Muppet Singers, so Vengeance Rising was Cookie Monster, and Tourniquet had Gonzo. So there was an overlap with the Muppets, and I'm kidding. I'm joking.
You say Gonzo, I say Wicked Witch of the West. Like whenever he, like in the Test for Leprosy, when he kind of gets something like, "Ooh, I'll get you, my pretty." Anyway, ready to hit some songs?
We didn't do artwork. No, we got to do the artwork.
Okay,
I know you got some stuff to say about the artwork. I
have always loved the artwork, the cover of this album. That logo
is cool.
It's so cool. And to this day, it's like I would totally wear a shirt with that on it. I mean, and this was 34 years ago. It still is one of the coolest, especially Christian band logos I've ever seen, because it's metal, but it's not like, a bunch of sticks piled in a like death metal,
right.
But it's just so cool. It's just so cool.
It's a super cool. Yeah.
The overall package is very typical, Frontline Records from the day, which was the tray card and the CD was black and white, because all Frontline Records had black and white tray cards at that time. And then you kind of repeat that with band photos and stuff like that. And then when you open it up, it's just a, one fold. Inside is black and white, but it was fine. To me, the front cover, they could have done whatever they wanted to with the rest of it. The front cover is amazing.
Well, I mean, and I don't think people realized back then, or we realize, or maybe we remember, but Christian record labels like Intense, when they would put out an album, they were putting a lot on the line, if you really think about it, because they didn't have a lot of margin to screw up, to put out something that was dumb and nobody liked and no one would buy. So the fact that it was such a great band and with a very unique sound, they didn't sound like anybody. You couldn't like compare them to anybody, and all of that together made it work. And like I said, enough so that they kept making albums for years, even though band members left, and we can get into some of that, but they, anyway, so.
Well, and artwork wise, Tourniquet falls into the category of, and somebody disagree with this is my opinion, of a band who had amazing artwork on their first album, and then it just sort of steadily got worse and worse. And there were some good ones mixed in, but it's like, man, that first one just killed it, and then it started getting bad.
Yeah.
I mean, worse. I would say bad. None of them were really bad, but they never repeated the coolness of the first one, in my opinion.
All right. The first song is Test for Leprosy. So one of the things about this album is, since they are like progressive thrash speed metal, there's going to be a lot of the song that we won't play because, some of these, they, as a part of the band and the style, the genre, they've got like 8 different, 5 or 6 different riffs there in the middle between one of the choruses and then finishing out the song. And so we just unfortunately won't be able to play all that. But anyway.
Well, yeah. And I think the thing that stood out to me most on this album, the music was killer. Guy Ritter's vocals are insane. I mean, we talked about Gonzo or Wicked Witch of the West, whatever. It's like, he's got that sort of like, rah, 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 you know, that sort of like where he's singing like almost like a normal person. And then he like goes up into the stratosphere and his vocals are just crazy.
They are crazy. But it's one of the things that I kind of criticized about him was he didn't have a lot of the mid range of his voice. He uses it some on this album and it sounds really good. And I never understood why he didn't do that more. Like he would go, and then go straight to, like he would like, there was like no in between, you know, he would just go from like the low, the really low to the really high. And I loved his voice, and his voice sounded so good on that First Flood album, particularly. It sounded so good, and it sounded good live, you know, on the Immortal Fest. And he, you know, but anyway, so it's a great opening song. It's a thrash. I mean, come on, this is a thrash song. Test for Leprosy. I mean, that's that's not an Amy Grant title. That's not a Sandy Patty title. That is a thrash metal title. And I love the bridge. I like the riff out. And, you know, if you want to hear more about Ted as a drummer, I think we did a little special on him when he passed. You can go back and listen to that. But one of the things about this band was everyone was just blown away by Ted's drumming, which is so important in thrash. But Gary was no slouch as a guitar player. He was so good. And so they just had all these amazing elements, and you just see it all right here. And Ted wrote this song, by the way.
Yeah. I think you get a little taste of what's to come in their entire catalog, which is talking about medical issues.
Right. So. Right. They don't get quite as technical with it on this album, but yeah, it's pretty fun. One of the cool things that we liked about this band, or I did, was, I mean, like when you would check out bands, generally speaking, the singer and the guitar player would write everything. And sometimes the bass player. That was unusual. It was rare that the drummer would write complete songs. And the fact that Ted was not only an amazing drummer, but could write some pretty complicated thrash stuff was always amazing to me. So it's cool.
Yeah, I agree.
All right, ready? Ready or not? Are you ready for Ready or Not?
I am ready or not.
He has a little, yeah. Yeah. So very cool song. And this one was actually written by Ritter and Lenaire together, and a little more of a standard structure. It wasn't quite as progressive. So what you'll see is when Ritter was involved in the writing, it was a little more of a standard structure, but still very straight metal song about judgment and cool bridge, all of that. Good song.
Yeah, just straight up metal. It's I mean, again, this, like, you go from that first song and then this song, like, Guy's voice is just like way above the staff, way up there.
Right.
And it keeps getting higher.
Yeah.
You know what this song reminds me of, and this is going to be a deep dive for some of our listeners. But if you're a big Terry Taylor fan, he did the Miracle Faith Telethon CD and under the Dr. Edward Daniel Taylor, and he has a song on there called by a fictional Christian metal band called Sprinkler Head. And this sounds like Sprinkler Head. So do yourself a favor. Look up Sprinkler Head.
All right, check it out.
And that's what it sounds like.
Very cool. All right. Yeah, so, I mean, there's not a lot to say about the song. It's about judgment, ready or not, Jesus is coming back. And it's just kind of, but again, it's a great topic for metal. Like I keep pointing out. It's a great topic for the style. And and I love it. It's got a lot of energy. And I think that was another cool thing about them is if you have this sort of heavy music and speed metal, all that, like you wanted it to have that sort of energy and aggression, and you definitely had that. But it was on point because the drummer was so good. Like there wasn't a whole lot of sloppiness going on. It was really tight, and you could hear everything. And all right, so next song is the quote unquote hit that they had, and they had the video and the whole thing, Ark of Suffering. What a great song. And it's so economical, too. There's a lot of stuff going on in this song, guys. If you have listened to the whole song, it's only 4 minutes and 16 seconds long.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of stuff going on.
This song for me is like going back and re-listening to this album a couple of times in the last few days. Like, especially this song reminds me of how dismiss is probably too strong of a word, but because this song got played a lot, this song was the hot topic song. This was the song that, got banned from MTV. This, it's like, I almost dismissed this song as being as good as it is. And when listening through it, I mean, this song is just ridiculously good.
It is ridiculously good. And it's all written by Lenaire. And I love the trade-off of the vocals. I love bands where they trade off of vocals.
Ted Kirkpatrick. This is a Kirkpatrick song.
Oh, okay. I saw whatever I was looking on Discogs, it said Lenaire. I could be wrong.
Well, let me. Okay, you keep talking. I'll double check.
But I always love the bands where they can trade off vocals. King's X, Galactic Cowboys, Whiteheart. Like a lot of these bands where they had multiple types of vocals, that they could kind of trade off with a little bit. I always love those bands, and then so I love that. And they would trade it off on a lot of these songs. They would trade off some solos. Lenaire would solo, and then the other guy, Eric Mendez, I think was his name, or no, it was Mark something. Mark Lewis. Sorry, Eric Mendez is who replaced him. Mark Lewis was a session guy, and he played some of the solos. Eric Mendez, and then Victor Macias was the bass player that they ended up getting when they filled out the band for Psychosurgery. But anyway, so he's an amazing guitar player too. So he had great solos. It just flowed, and it was economical, and it worked. And what a great song!
Yeah, absolutely. And it was Kirkpatrick. I double checked.
No, like I said, I was looking at Discogs.
But it shows how good Ted was at being a songwriter for all instruments, because like the guitars in this song are insane.
Right. Yeah. The riffs are so cool. There's a lot of dynamics. It slows down, it speeds up, it gets quieter, it gets louder. And the vocals do some different things. There's two kind of different choruses. So the lyrics are cool, and you get into the first chorus and then the second chorus, and the lyrics are original. I mean, there's not a lot of cliches here, because no one did this topic, and so whatever you were doing was going to be kind of original, and the way they put it was very interesting. So, totally love this song.
It's a little bit. I mean, not a little bit. It's very blatant in your face. I mean, it's like, take our pets to be gassed once their cute age is past.
Right.
It's like, well, when I was that, I mean, I couldn't imagine anybody doing that. I still can't imagine anybody doing that, but it's like, but then you realize as you get older, you realize some people do stuff like that.
Oh, sure. Right.
They should be ashamed.
Well, and a big part of it was especially a criticism and a commentary on animal testing, which, come on. I mean, they're not necessarily wrong. I mean, there's a lot of stuff that goes on that is it really necessary? And probably most of it isn't, in the sense of, for long-term good of humanity. It's just for money. So, I mean, a lot of that stuff that's part of the role. I'm going to get a soapbox a little bit here, but that's part of the role of the church is to point out things that our culture is doing that isn't really for the good of everybody. And it doesn't always have to be sort of trending topics. It can be something that's like, look, nobody's talking about this. Nobody's talking about this thing that's hurting somebody we should talk about. And I think that's part of our role as, instead of, trying to correct everybody on every little thing that they say, try to bring up some of this injustice that maybe people aren't talking about. So, yeah, it was cool. All right. Now, Tears of Korah. This is up there with one of my favorite. So I'm just going to put that out there. But here we go. Tears of Korah. then there's a lot of jamming.
Oh yeah, as there should be.
As there should be. So the reason why this is one of my favorites is, if you've been listening to this podcast, it's got a lot of dynamics. It's more progressive. It's more story based. It's right out of Numbers. This really sort of crazy story about Korah and the rebellion of Korah against Moses, and so just a lot of the music and stuff that's going back. I have this down as this is a Lenaire song, but I don't know. Maybe I'm wrong. After Kirkpatrick, but anyway,
that's what I got too.
All right, so it's just all of that together, and the vocals are so strong, and just all the riffs. It's got all the riffs, and yeah, I just dig it.
Yeah, it's I like it too, because I mean it sounds like a lot of different songs mashed together. Like like at the beginning, and then you get that sort of, you get the singing part, then you get that sort of like slowed down part, then you get him singing in the Gonzo voice part. It's just, I dig it too. It's good.
All right, and so we'll have to get there, but I'm going to have to play my favorite part, and one of the reasons why it's one of my favorites. It's at 5:40 around here. See if I get to it. The Scream. The Scream is my favorite. The Scream is one of the... I mean, come on. I mean, like, that's just
crazy.
That is so amazing. The first time I heard that, I was like, holy crap, that's one of the best screams in metal I've ever heard. Top.
It's nuts.
It's up there. I mean, I can't think of anyone. I mean, there's a few bands I would put up there close to it. I mean, like some from Queensryche and Fate's Warning and some of that other stuff that I would put up there close to it. But man, dude. So yeah.
Yeah.
Tears of Korah.
That scream sounds like a scream that then is there's a dial, and you can turn the dial to make it higher and higher. That's insane.
Well, and then he comes in with a little lower. It's still a scream, but there's another lower scream that harmonizes with it. I mean, it's just so super cool. All right.
Good stuff.
Threshing Floor. This one's by Ritter, and it's going to be a little bit more of that sort of straight ahead metal. Your life is in danger. I don't know if you know that.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, this one sounds a little bit more Iron Maidenish to me. I get some Iron Maiden feelings from some of their music, especially from Guy Ritter. A little more straight. Mm-hmm. I mean, it's not straight, but it's a little more straight ahead, heavy metal sort of sound, power metal sort of sound. And this is kind of one of those. And yeah, it's got a metal title, The Threshing Floor. And yet, it's more the theme of the song about, your life is in danger if you're not following Jesus sort of thing. So, it's a very metal song, but it's cool. Yeah,
this is a good example of of what I like about some bands, and Tourniquet is a good example of that on this particular album, at least, where the main members of the band are all contributing to it. So as long as their writing styles are complementary,
right?
And it's not like it's not like a folk song followed by a metal song or something. It kind of gives a good overall picture of the band, and it doesn't make it really monotonous.
Right.
And so, because this song is a great metal song, but it doesn't really sound like any of the other songs we've heard because it's kind of got Guy's stamp on it. So,
right.
It's good.
I totally agree. Good tune. And one of the things I'm not super crazy about, and I'm not going to name names for other people, but I'm not super crazy about a lot of vocal effects. And sometimes I think it goes a little too far with Guy. I think they have a little too much effects on his voice. I just like more of a raw sound. I mean, not like no effects, but sometimes it goes a little, I know some people love it, and I'm not going to name names about modern people that I think go too far with it too. But I just think it sometimes people use it to mask things sometimes, I think. And because they can't really do it live as well. And anyway, so that's not a super criticism, but I mean, obviously I love this album, the whole thing.
Yeah.
But anyway, all right. You get what you pray for, which is, come on. This is, I love this song.
All of a sudden.
Yeah, I could totally see. I mean, it's not exactly like them, but I could totally see like Iron Maiden playing this song. I mean, I could totally see that. Like just sort of like, full speed ahead metal song, and I love the topic and his vocals. I think his vocals sound amazing on this song. He has a little bit more of that mid range. He's using a little bit more of that in this song. Mm-hmm. And yeah, it's also another one by Ritter. So it's in that sort of his style. It's got a pre-chorus to it. It's got like an extended second chorus. It's got a lot of like normal songwriting elements to it that are just well done in the style. It's good.
Yeah, I would say that this song was the biggest Christian metal like hit, even bigger than Arc of Suffering, and that's just based completely on memory, because I just remember that this album or this song was really like pushed hard by the label and played a lot by people like me and other folks. So, but yeah, it's very just straightforward, and it's interesting. It's interesting that to me, it features Ted's drumming more than even some of the songs that Ted wrote, I think.
Yeah, right.
But yeah, great song. I mean, it's very clear gospel message, which is
sure, right, yeah,
which is cool.
Yeah, and telling people to pray, and it's a turn of a phrase, right? Instead of you get what you pay for, It's, which is kind of a cliche. It's a turn of that. It's not using the cliche. It's turning it a little bit with Pray For instead. And yeah, I mean, we love this song. All right. Swarming Spirits. Another metal, very metal song, very metal sounding title. And that sounds like Swarming Spirits right there.
It does.
Another great riff. It's like, hey, we need a cool riff, and then they just write one. It starts out with the beginning of the song is a great example of how I like his mid range, like that mid range voice that he's got there right at the beginning. That's not the super low and it's not the super high. I think it sounds great, and I just wish he would have done more of it. But it's a great song.
Yeah,
it's a cool song.
Yep, I agree. I don't have a ton to say about this one. It's not my favorite, but it's really good. And I love those riffs in the middle, like we were just about to get into when we turned it down there. That's kind of where it breaks it down. And
man, so good.
Those were the things as a teenager, which I was barely in my teens at this point, but still. Those are the things like that's where you crank it.
Yeah, that's where you crank it. And those dynamics, it breaks it up, and then you come back to the stuff. One thing I will say about this song is it says swarms. If you couldn't understand the lyrics of the chorus, it says swarms to kill them and all that stuff, and then it says swarms to bless them. And I never understood that. I never said wait a minute. I thought we were doing swarms of evil spirits. How are they blessing things? I don't know what that means. So I don't know. I just question if Gary or somebody from that time, Guy, if you're listening to this, maybe you can message us or let us know. Just let us know. All right. Yeah. I don't think we're going to get too much into this next one because it is an instrumental. So we'll do about a minute of it. Anyway, this was a normal thing with metal bands through the late 80s, early 90s, well, especially through the late 80s, mid to late 80s. A metal band, especially heavy, but, Dokken did this. They would have one song that was just an instrumental. Iron Maiden did this a couple times, and it was common. I was never super crazy about them. I know some metal fans might, try to take my metal card for that. But for me, I was, there were some exceptions to this. Dokken's Mr. Scary was one of my favorites. So there were some exceptions to this, and I think it all kind of came from the root of it was Eddie Van Halen. When he did Eruption, which isn't really, it is an instrumental, but not like they would do. But I mean, these guys were so prolific. A lot of times they could write whatever. They could just write an instrumental, right? And that's just, put that all in the album. We don't have to write a whole song. We just like jam to these riffs that we're coming up with. And so anyway, I like it, but it's not one of my favorites personally, just anyway, it's cool.
Yeah, it's fine. I never really if it was short and sweet, like Nagasaki by
sure,
Rex
yeah,
Carroll,
he did it.
Some
too.
things like that, just quick, in and out. Just give me but it's like I never really enjoyed David Zafiro's instrumental stuff, his album, and it's not because it wasn't good. I was a lyric guy,
right? Yeah, I'm the same way. It's not because I thought it wasn't good. I was just somebody who. I love the vocals. I love the lyrics. I love song structure. Although, it's a lot of these. Now, and I'm saying all this, one of my favorite albums is Joe Satriani's Silver Surfer album. I mean, that album is phenomenal. And there's no vocals, no lyrics, nothing on that except just amazing guitar work. And I saw Joe Satriani live in concert. I mean, like, I love, I don't dislike it. And there's times I really, really like it. I just, it's just not always my favorite, but all right.
Yep.
So let's get to somnambulism, which is sleepwalking.
Yeah, I had to Google it. The thing is, I knew it way back when, and it's just like that's not a word I use that often.
No, so most people don't. And so this is kind of the precursor. This is showing us what Tourniquet will be for a while, which is they're just come up with really technical medical names.
Mm-hmm.
Confusion overwhelms you. Life's only what you see. Your eyes are glassy, wandering in your sleep. You've fallen down the stairs. Is there anyone to help you find your sanity? Blessed is the man who dwells in the unapproachable light. It will open a window that empties the darkness of your soul. There was a retro.
Yeah, I really, really like this song.
Mm-hmm.
For sure.
Yeah, it's slow plotting, which is kind of cool.
Yeah,
and then it picks up of other songs.
Yeah, and then it picks up on the chorus a little bit, and I love the line. I love the chorus. And I love Guy's voice on this. He does a little bit more with his voice in the mid range. And, blessed is the man who dwells in the unapproachable light. Like that, those words, like you're dwelling in something that's unapproachable. and just shows the gift that it is to have a relationship with Christ and God, and the honor that is. And anyway, so super cool song, and it's all about not sleepwalking, obviously, and how a lot of people sleepwalk, and the church sleepwalks through. And there's a lot of stuff in the scripture about waking up, waking up the people of God from the Old Testament, and all, especially. So yeah, super cool song.
Yeah, it's good. And no shock, Ted Kirkpatrick wrote it.
Ted wrote it.
It's got that crazy medical name.
It's got the crazy medical name. All right, let's get to the last song, and this is The Harlot Widow and the Virgin Bride. It might be about Revelation. I'm not sure. Maybe. Okay, let's see. I won't play a lot of this song, mainly because there's not much of a structure to it that you can kind of like... What a great opening.
See the harlot riding sinner scarlet. She's a city made of souls. To the devil she will hold to the end. This drunken blindness.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of structure to this song, which is fine. I'm not against there not being structure. I just don't think it works so well with this song. This is actually my least favorite song on the whole album. It just doesn't seem to really go anywhere. I mean, I think it's cool to be about Revelation, and the lyrics are cool, but there's a little bit of melody with the bridge, but it's not one of the stronger songs to me, just personally. And it's very metal, but Oh, and one thing I did want to mention that I didn't mention before was, okay, so Ted and Gary play the bass. One of the things I appreciate about that is they actually do a good job. Like, as a bass player, I'm listening to what they did, and I'm like, yeah, I'd play that. Like, that's a bass line. That's not just following the guitar a lot of times. Like, they're actually doing some different things and putting in some dynamics with the bass. So you hear some of that in the beginning of this song, but that's the last song. You're muted.
Oh, sorry about that, people. I have a cold, so I've been coughing and sneezing a lot throughout this episode. So I've been muting myself, and then, so I'm actually lucky that it got through every song without me doing it before. Anyway, what I was going to say was it's not my favorite song either. And I think it more has to do with, I'm a melodic guy. I like songs to kind of flow and have rhythm, but I'll contradict myself occasionally if I'm feeling particularly, like the song is just kind of like, there's one of the songs earlier I was talking about that does this, but yeah, it's not my favorite. But it's, to me, it's sort of fits along. It's very progressive sounding. A lot of different styles and Guy's vocals early on, like that first verse is just, it's just insane. Like just the sounds that come out of his mouth are just crazy.
Yeah, agreed. I dig it. I dig the whole album, and I don't. It's not like I just skipped a song, but like I said, it's not one of the ones that I remember from them. Like, there are a lot of these songs. Like when I'm listening back through the album, I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this song. And this one, I'm like, what was this again? It just didn't do a whole lot for me. They're very talented, and there's a lot of things to appreciate about it. But not one of my favorites, but that's all right.
You know what? They gave us plenty of great music after this. So.
And hopefully it won't take too long before we do Psychosurgery, because I might like that album better. It's such a great album.
I think I might too, actually. So I was thinking about that. That was going to be, it was either this one or Psychosurgery for the first one that we did, but it kind of makes sense to do this one first.
We might as well do the first one. I mean, it's strong enough that I think you just go ahead and do the first one, but it's an amazing album. Like I said, we wore this tape cassette out and loved it and just, rocked out to it, man. Really good. Yeah.
Same. It was good. I mean, it was like we didn't play a lot of metal music on our radio station. I would sneak some in on Saturdays when we played rock stuff. Like I would sneak in, you get what you pray for, and stuff like that. We weren't like a heavy metal show. I mean, I'd probably follow it up with Liaison or something like that. but it was, again, this to me, this kind of changed the game. This one did. Absolutely. Because it was like something, it was weird, but it was heavy and it was high quality. So,
and different. Like you couldn't listen to these guys and say, oh, they're just like anybody, in the Christian music industry. And some people liked that, I guess. And you still see that sometimes in the Christian metal, group. Like, does any Christian band sound like this? And it's like, a good Christian band to me sounds like who they are. I mean, they just, most of the time. And I get it. It's you want to see what's in that space that's similar, but you just couldn't say that about this band. This band was totally their own thing. Although it was still within the heavy thrash metal sort of world. So totally, if for people who haven't heard this before, I can't imagine many who haven't, but definitely check them out, man.
Yeah. And go ahead, and while you're at it, after you get done with this, listen to Psychosurgery and actually go through, like, I even like Crawl to China, which was a very different sounding album for them.
Yeah.
I really loved that album.
Actually decent. That was a decent album. Yeah.
Yeah. So most of their albums are really good. So, but anyway, so now, like we talked about earlier, Stop the Bleeding is like, they're calling it a cover band, but it's really just, it's Guy and Luke and Luke Easter and Gary have come together and gotten some support musicians. A lot of it was Flood, I think, that played live.
Yeah.
It's basically some of the old Tourniquet guys playing old Tourniquet songs, and it sounds amazing. So
it sounds amazing. Yeah. I think I did say it was Tourniquet, but it's not technically Tourniquet. It was STV.
Yeah, I think because the estate of Ted Kirkpatrick, I think, owns Tourniquet. So you kind of have to be like, we're just a cover band that sounds a lot like them.
We used to be in a band with them, but we're just a cover band. But, but a lot of, I mean, they're not the only people, who kind of went through some legal things when bands would break up. So unfortunately,
it happens. Unfortunately,
it happens. So, all right.
Well, Stop the Bleeding. So we got some more episodes sort of in the works planned with other podcasters. We're talking about doing some collaborative things. So keep an eye out for that. It's been a busy season getting into the fall. I know that, we've got our kids are going back to school. Our wives have gone back to work.
Yep.
I've got a kid. I'm moving into college next week. So I think things should get more in a rhythm, and maybe we can start getting those things into plans. These are things that we've been talking with other folks about for months. And so hopefully it'll all sort of start coming to fruition. But anyway, thanks for listening, everybody. Make sure you subscribe. Make sure you give us 5 stars.
Yep.
5 stars. Check us out on YouTube if you want. I've started putting some like some of the interview, like audio interviews from like, because I put the podcast feed up there, but I don't release all. Like if we're doing a video, like if I'm going to do a video of this on there, I'm not going to release the podcast feed of it because it's silly. But like some of the older interviews, like Alan Aguirre and Mike Stand, and some of those I've started putting up there. And somebody requested I put the somebody who apparently is like YouTube only wanted to hear the Galactic Cowboys album that we did, so I popped that up there too. So anyway, it's kind of a fun place to go check it out, and you can actually see the conversation. I started doing more listening or watching more podcasts on YouTube, and it's kind of fun.
Yeah.
Do it whatever is convenient for you, because we still have the website. I know that I think Brian only listens on the website, which is cool.
That's cool.
Find your place.
Find your place.
We're just happy you're there.
Vote right in Les Carlson for president. And if I'm still open, if you're interested in collaborating, getting together, and doing something for the next Immortal Fest here in a couple of weeks, hit me up on Facebook or whatever. However,
yes, and I'm open to be Les's running mate. So I haven't told my wife yet, but we'll have to cross that bridge when we get there.
Steve for vice president.
Yeah, sure. All right. Well, thanks everybody. Thanks for listening. Thanks for voting, and peace out.
Peace out.